Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Have you ever wondered about tennis IQ? What exactly is tennis IQ? Can you win with it? And we're going to talk about it today. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about tennis IQ. How smart are you on the court? Now, I've been wanting to do this interview to only do it with Coach JT here, though. So just to give you some of Coach JT's accolades from his past, went to USC, ranked number 15 in the nation and number 4 in California. Ranked number 1 in the nation in the 14s, ranked number 5 in the 16s, and ranked number 2 in the 18s. A 2-time doubles champion in Kalamazoo in his 16s and 18s. Competed at the Junior Davis Cup as a 16 and under, was a Winter National Junior Singles Champion in 2008. Now, Coach JT enters his second season coming up this fall as the University of San Francisco men's head coach, or one of the key coaches in running the high performance at the California Tennis Club. JT's college career began at USC, where he was two-time NCAA team champion, as well as two-time all NCAA first team selection. He received Scholar Athlete Award of Honor, as well as being selected to Pac-10 All Academic Honor Roll. He then transferred to TCU, where he was the captain of the team. A native of Thousand Oaks, California, Sundling attended Westlake High School, where as a junior he was named 2006 Southern California Player of the Year. He claimed the boys 16 and 18 national hardcourt championships in Kalamazoo with partner Daniel Nguyen, giving him entry to the men's 2009 U.S. Open doubles main draw. He is the winner of 8 gold balls throughout his junior career and was ranked top 5 nationally in 14, 16, and 18s. He was a member of the 2007 United States Junior Davis Cup team. He was a recipient of the Evelyn Hausman Lifetime Sportsmanship Award. Man, you're like a book, dude. I could just keep going on. So, Scholar Athlete, right? Smart player, right? So I want to welcome Coach JT Sundling to Tennis Spin here. Thank you for making time. He just finished his first season, and it was a tough season, huh? Tough season for the boys.
It was an interesting season. It was tough, for as it was for everybody with all the COVID protocols, and there were so many new things we had to deal with week to week that weren't tennis related, but at the end we were able to play a bunch of matches and get through probably 2/3 of what a normal season would look like. So right. We were happy with that at the end.
All right, so our topic today is tennis IQ. So Coach, what exactly, in your opinion, is tennis IQ?
So to me, tennis IQ is basically your overall understanding of the game. And that's obviously a pretty broad definition, but your understanding of the game and, as a player, learning to play the right shot at the right moment and recognizing your opponent's strengths and weaknesses. And, there's so many little things that go into a match day situation that all encompass your tennis IQ.
Right. So, in your opinion, is tennis IQ learned over time, or can you actually teach somebody this?
I would say it's just, for me, it's 100% a mixture of the two. I think you can have a coach who does a really good job of breaking the game down to you in a way where it really teaches you, to look for certain things when you're going to play an opponent. But all of these things won't really come to light unless you're out there competing and playing tournaments. So you kind of have to have the balance. And one of the best things you can do for that is basically record your matches, and then start to, whether you're sitting down with your coach or just by yourself, you'll start to pick up so many little things that you maybe didn't notice before.
I'm going to deviate from this for 1 second here. Was there a coach or a moment in your junior history, the light bulb moment?
I would say the biggest thing for me was I was the youngest of I was one of 5, but my 2 older brothers played, and I'd go to the tournaments all the time. And I just watched so much tennis, and I loved watching tennis. I couldn't get enough of it, whether it was watching my brothers play, watching my friends play at tournaments, or watching it on TV. And I think that, really helped me understand the game. I was able to pick up on certain things that, definitely helped me as a junior player, and I feel like helped me a lot as a coach in relaying certain information, whether it's the week leading up to a tournament or especially in a college match, and then playing so many matches helps you be able to kind of pick up on those little things.
Right. So I know a lot of people out there kind of just watch the ball. They kind of just do this deal, right? See the ball. So what are you looking at instead of the ball?
So the first part of I'd say tennis IQ is understanding that, above all, technique isn't going to win you matches, and blasting one unbelievable winner isn't going to do the job either. But putting balls in regularly over and over is that's your baseline. That's where you start, and then once you go from there, you're going to eventually play a player who that's not going to work against. Then you're going to have to, all right, let me try something else out. And then once you, start to see the similar opponents, and who you're playing, then you have an idea of what patterns are going to work for you, and what your strengths are, how they match up against their weaknesses, and, not getting ahead of yourself too.
Right. Tennis is a game of errors. We win by making it in. So just breaking it down to the most basics of tennis. So this is why pushers win, because they get the ball back. And it ain't the most prettiest thing sometimes, but they get the ball back.
It also depends what your motivation is as a player. If you're going out there and you want to win, and your number one goal is winning, then how pretty everything looks really shouldn't matter.
Okay, so everybody sees, just by flipping on Tennis Channel, watching the pros play, or even at your level at the college guys, you definitely see a lot of power. You probably see a lot of precision, because these guys definitely got to know what they're doing to be at this level. All things being the same, can you beat somebody with your IQ if you have 2 players that are physically the same?
Okay, so if you have 2 players who are physically the same and everything else is equal, but one has a greater tennis IQ, you would have to say that guy is going to win. He'd have to be favored.
Right.
But, a more likely scenario is there's, one of the things I love so much about tennis is that you can get 2 players with totally on opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of athletic ability, and it can be completely neutralized by somebody who has a really good understanding of the game. And tennis IQ, talking about patterns, but there's also other parts to it where it's your ability to compete and stay level-headed and patient, and really play the right shot at the right time and expose your opponent's weaknesses. Everybody's dealing with the same challenges. You go out on the court and you're trying to solve a problem on that day, and that's what's so fun about it, for me at least, where you go out and some days your forehand feels great, some days your backhand feels great, some days your serve's on, some days it's not, and you can let it upset you, or you can just understand, like, hey, this is the challenge for today, and that's what makes it fun. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty big saying in the tennis community, is it's about how you show up on the days where you're not playing well. You've got to have your expectations in the right order, and understand, like, okay, how am I gonna basically problem solve on the days where things aren't clicking, or my opponent is such a high level that he's making me uncomfortable, so I have to make adjustments.
If you're going to go down in flames in the first set, sometimes change the strategy.
Yeah, exactly. To your point, there's going to be days where you go out and you get your butt kicked, and that's part of tennis, and that's okay. Yeah, but what you don't want to do is go out and have a situation like that where you make no adjustments.
Now, one of the younger players that just graduated from USC, Brandon Holt, who's Tracy Austin's son, when I watch him, he kind of mesmerizes you. I mean, it's like he doesn't hit a hard ball. He keeps it in play. He positions the ball in a spot where he kind of can figure out where it's going to come back to and play the next shot. Now, so I kind of consider that like a high IQ player. Would you agree with that? And who would your player be with a high IQ that's kind of on tour right now?
So, yeah, I would say, the little bit of time I've watched Brandon play, one thing I've noticed, he's super efficient, right? He moves super clean. His strokes are super clean, and it just looks like, effortless. He's super fun to watch.
Right.
And yeah, as far as I can tell, he's a really smart player. He's really level-headed, and, a big part of, I feel like there's a lot of players out there who actually do have a good or really good understanding of the game and a high tennis IQ, but they get into competition mode and they get so flustered and they get so amped up that they can't use it appropriately. Right. They're not thinking clearly. They're not able to see and assess what's happening in the match as it's happening. Then as far as like a player on tour who I think has a really high tennis IQ, or I absolutely love watching as well. I'd say David Goffin. I've always loved watching him. He doesn't get free points on his serve. He doesn't really get free points off anything. Right. And for me, those are the best players to watch, because they have to be super creative and they have to understand the game. They have to play percentages properly, and for me, he does a great job of that. Right.
So David and actually Brandon are very similar type players. They're super efficient with their movement and their stroke. They don't waste a lot of energy trying to cream the ball. They're basically playing for the next shot. So either the opponent is going to miss, or I'm going to hopefully set you up for a winner. That's not going to look spectacular, but it's going to just work.
And a huge point what you just brought up is, it could be any match. You go down 2-0 in early break, and even if you are feeling super agitated or you're not confident that day, the absolute last thing you want to do, right, is show your opponent.
Right.
And, someone like Brandon, he's been in that situation, a million times, and it's not going to faze him for a second. But at a certain point, yeah, it was phasing him when he was younger, junior, and he had to fight through that, and he's just done it so many times that, it's second nature now.
Right.
And But it starts with that understanding, like, okay, first and foremost, like I have to at least portray on the outside that I have this confidence, and when you take that step, then you actually allow yourself to compete and be in the match, and then good things can happen.
So I feel that the people with the highest tennis IQ are the people who are the ones that aren't flashy, because you know that of your own capabilities, and you know that the ball's coming back, and you got to get it back over there.
If you don't have a cannon of a serve and you're getting free points, and you don't have a massive weapon, then what are your other options? And you're forced to really be, whether it's be creative or disciplined. There's a million different ways to describe it, but you're gonna have to figure something out that can make up for this lack of weapons.
Right.
And it's not to say like there's definitely players out there with great weapons that have an unbelievable tennis IQ as well.
Oh, for sure.
You always want to be playing and like building the point, right? So, we talk a lot about set plays where I'm serving. Like serving, why is serving an advantage? Serving's an advantage because you get the first say in the point.
Right.
And the best way to expose your opponent is to serve out wide and then hit your first ball open court. So you get them moving right away, and then you build your point after that.
Right.
And never thinking. Something I see a lot is you get players and they're transitioning. Could be the third, fourth, fifth ball, doesn't matter, and they feel like they have to hit a winner on that ball.
Right.
Then you're putting too much pressure on yourself, and then you get a lot of errors.
Done it.
And that's
that's a balance. Do you want to go for the 30-ball rally and maybe lose, or do you want to go for the point and go for the win? I think that's where tennis IQ actually kind of takes place, right?
Well, it's exactly, but it's also understanding your opponent, right? Going throughout a tournament, you're going to usually play players with higher and higher level that are require different things of you.
Right.
And being able to kind of navigate that space, that's, for me, really tennis IQ. When you're in that moment and you're thinking it and adjusting, your ability to adjust to all the different and unique situations you're presented with in a match setting. That moment in that match, you don't want to get lost in your technique, because then you're no longer competing. You're busy criticizing yourself, and when you're doing that, you take yourself out of that competition state of mind. It's understanding that tennis is, the match is going to have a lot of ups and downs.
Since you get to coach now, so let's say one of your guys goes up 6-0, what do you tell him?
It's like, hey, we got to reset right here. That set's in the bag. You got to be ready for this guy to come out, as a new player.
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm going to show this guy that he can't beat me 6-0 again. Like, I'm still in this match.
Right.
So they're going to come out with this big, blast of energy. They're going to be ready to fight. And if you can battle with them for those next 2-3 games, and say you get up, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, or win some tough situation, then that might be enough to deflate them.
Then you're done.
Like, hey, if I can just turn one of these games around, the momentum can shift, and then it's a totally different match.
Right, exactly. When you're scouting potential players for your team, let's say in the high school level, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? Is it physical ability? Do you check the IQ? Is there a way to check the IQ?
So I'm looking for, first off, guys who absolutely love tennis, who love tennis. That's more of like you see the guy play and kind of the energy he's bringing and how he's kind of responding to situations on court. It's hard not to look at technique, right? For me, that's not like the end-all be-all.
Right.
But, that obviously is something you pay a little bit of attention to. And then, as far as tennis IQ, you can see when they're playing, if you watch enough matches, how they respond to certain situations, if they're exposing their opponent's weakness, you can totally pick up on, where their tennis IQ is at.
Like, I know you look at a lot of recruiting videos, and obviously all the recruiting videos are going to make that person look spectacular. What can you look for in that video that shows you that the kid's going to be smart on the court?
Yeah, that's pretty tough. I feel like, if someone sends you a full match and you sit down, you're watching the match. But one of the big things is like, how are you responding after you lose tough points or tough games, and you can totally see that.
Right.
Hold
your head up high.
Yeah, hold your head up high, and are you say you lose a really tough game or tough point, is the next point like, are you playing a really low percentage shot because you're upset, or because you've totally lost belief in your ability to hang with your opponent? Something like that you can totally see on video.
How many recruiting videos do you watch? Is it important?
Well, this last year, it was all recruiting videos, so I can't even tell you how. I was like, every day watching. It's great for recruiting purposes, but it's also, as a player, it's an amazing tool. Everybody should be using. I think tennis specifically is one of the sports where video work is totally underutilized, and it's so much easier for the player to digest it because they can see exactly what's happening. Because a lot of times you think something's happening and there's kind of a disconnect between that and what actually is happening. And
for sure.
But the first thing is actually understanding and realizing and being aware that it's happening. Right? And it's really hard to be aware. And there's little things you can do to really help improve your body language. If you're someone who really struggles with it, it could be something as simple as, hey, I'm just going to jog in and out of every changeover. And what that does is, say you lose what you perceive to be a terrible game, right? Or you have a terrible changeover, you lose 2 games. And instead of like ruminating on that, right, you back, grab your towel, and you're jogging in. So you're sending this positive energy, and you throw that away. It's in the past, and then you're ready to move on. And it kind of happens on its own without you even realizing, if you actually remember to jog in and out. But that's one really simple thing that I remember my coach had me do when I was probably like 12 years old. And I remember thinking, like, dude, this is so stupid. Nobody's doing this. And then I did it, and I was like, wow, it really helped me kind of manage the roller coaster of like, emotions through a match. And, it totally basic that anybody can do. First, like, something as simple as, say you're warming up with somebody, you can see, say we're rallying through the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I see you hit a few forehands, I hit your backhand, I see you run around and hit a forehand, I see you run around and hit a forehand. I'm like, well, okay, it looks like he likes to hit his forehand more, so maybe I'll try playing, just pay attention to that. Okay, let me attack his backhand. And it's understanding, like, you want the pattern to be, whether I'm hitting an inside-out forehand or it doesn't matter, but I'm hitting the ball to your backhand. And you could be leaving the rest of the court wide open, but I'm going to make you feel like you're going to have to beat me with your weakness.
Mm-hmm. So Coach JT put upon an important thing. Like, if the person's running around their backhand constantly and hitting forehands during warm-up, obviously they're going to favor that forehand. So in your mind, you have to get to that backhand. But if the person's fast, they're going to just keep running around that all the time.
So, and like kind of the next kind of level up strategically is there's a lot of players who have great forehands, right? And they run around their backhand all day, and you're like, this guy's forehand is killing me. You try to get to the backhand corner. They're able to run around basically anywhere and hit a forehand. And that's where you got to be smart enough and willing to then attack the forehand corner, because so many players struggle out of the forehand corner. If you're able to hit a deep ball to that forehand corner, they struggle with that shot, and if they don't, then it opens up the backhand immediately. Exactly. So you attack the strength to open up the whole court to their weakness. And again, it's just when you're out there, it's like you're problem solving. Say we're going out to play, and obviously I would love to go out and play my best tennis and beat you 6-0, 6-0 and everything feel great, but I need to be ready to go out and play some really gritty, ugly points where things don't feel great, and I lose a bunch of really tough points to you. I'm ready for these points. I know they're going to frustrate me, and if I go out with that expectation, then when that happens, I'm not. It's not shocked, and I'm not panicked, and then I don't totally disappear out of the match, right? I'm expecting that. You can increase your ability for sure, by understanding what it is and what it takes to kind of create that type of competitive spirit. And again, it's being real with yourself, right? And that's where I think, again, I go back to that video helps, because you see it and you can't, you watch the video and it's not going to lie to you. You think it was maybe a little bit different, or you think you're right about something, and you go watch that video and you'll see, man, I did give up halfway through that second set, or I disguised it as, I'm in that second set and I started playing really low percentage because I couldn't. And when I mean low percentage, I mean, say I'm going for shots way outside my comfort zone because I don't want to fight through those tough points anymore. Right. Even though you still might lose that set 6-4 and it's really tough, but you're giving yourself the best chance, the best opportunity. Right. Exactly. And it's understanding, as a competitor, your obligation is to figure out the strategy that's going to give you your best chance of winning, right? Even if that's, less than a 50% chance of winning, right? You still 100% dedicate yourself to it. And the thing with tennis, right, you could be in a situation where you have no business winning and weird stuff happens. And if they miss a few opportunities to do it, then it starts to get in their head, and then you're alive in that match. Having your expectations right kind of helps you manage that. Right.
That's a mental state thing at that point too. I think that's actually a good spot to end it. Any simple tips besides running around thinking you're a lot of energy and hitting high percentage shots? Because we went over a lot of great things today.
I would say, yeah. So, jogging in and out of changeovers is a really simple tip that's really actionable, immediately, right? Resetting after points, whether you win or lose them, right? You could win the most incredible point of your life, and we don't think of it being hard to reset after that, but it actually is incredibly hard because you get super excited, you're super pumped up, you've gotten up really high on this, what I call the roller coaster, and inevitably it's going to come back down. So resetting after points, whether you win or lose, and starting to, whether it's video, you're watching video after matches or practice, and taking some notes, spend some time. It could be as little as honestly 2 minutes before practice, 2 minutes after. You write down, okay, what am I going to focus on after practice? How did that go? And you just start to evaluate and analyze these things, and then you start to pick up on things, especially with matches, and you'll just all of a sudden your tennis IQ, your ability to adapt in certain situations will dramatically increase.
That's awesome. Want to thank my man Coach JT Sundling for joining me today, talking about tennis IQ. Do you have Instagram, Coach?
We have Instagram for USF, yes.
So if you want to follow the USF Dons, they have a Instagram page. We'll link that to the bottom if you want to follow the men's tennis for the University of San Francisco. Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.